Most of you will probably have never ever heard of Gilles Rousset and might never have if you have never watched this video. But there was a time in Edinburgh where every single person in the city knew the name Gilles Rousset. And I want to tell you about the story, about how this Frenchman almost ruined my life. Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining in. It is great to have you here. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button down below so that you can keep in touch with all of my videos from now on. You'll have joined the clan, you will be a friend, and then hit the notification bell as well. Today I am telling you another story right here on my channel about my upbringing in Edinburgh, in Scotland, in the 90s. What a time it was to be alive in the 90s. Some of you will remember the 90s. I want to hear from your stories about the 90s. The 90s were epic. You might notice that I'm wearing a football top. This is a top from Heart of Midlothian Football Club. Hearts, as we know in Edinburgh. It is one of two professional football teams in Edinburgh, our capital city of Scotland. The other being Hibs or Hibernian. They wear green. And when I was a kid, guys, I can't explain this in strong enough language. When I was a kid, in the 90s, football was my life. Football or soccer to a lot of you guys watching from the United States or Canada or a lot of other places in the world. I was the kid that used to go around wearing nothing but a football strip, head to toe, the shirt, the shorts, the socks and the boots. Day in, day out. And I was a huge, massive Hearts fan. Still am. But in those days, I was obsessed. I grew up in an area not far away from the football stadium of Heart of Midlothian. And even better still, the place where the players trained every single day almost through the week was in a place called Stockton Park, which was literally about 10 or 20 meters away from where I lived. The place where they trained was in like a kind of running track with a football field in the middle, and it was fenced off all the way around, but a couple of us local lads, including my brother and I, we knew a little gap in the fence where we could get through and onto the pitch and watch the players train, and we watched them almost every single week. All of the stars of the team were right there in front of us training. It was like a private game for us. They almost all ignored us and we never ever got chased because there was only two of us and we never ever misbehaved. We just sat in the bylines and like just watched. In 1995, Hearts bought a French goalkeeper. He was a big tall guy and he had this mad bush of hair. He was called Gilles Rousset. And ever since he arrived at the club, Hearts went on this run where they went from a really poor team that had been underperforming for years into a really solid kind of third best in Scotland team. You know, we were challenging for everything. Ever since Gilles Rousset arrived and took the goalkeeper spot, like we were just solid at the back. Nothing was getting beyond us. And that's something that we had been missing for a number of years. Gilles Rousset became a hero very quickly at Tynecastle, which is a stadium of Hearts. And in 1996 we made it all the way to the Scottish Cup final. And that was for the first time in what seemed like an absolute age. And a lot of that was down to the fact that we now had a solid foundation in goal. Gilles Rousset, he was the man in Edinburgh for our half of Edinburgh anyway. He was an awesome addition and rarely made a single mistake during any of the games he was in. A few weeks before the cup final was going to be played, right? The Hearts team were training once again in Stockton Park. You can be sure my brother and I put on our full Heart strips and went onto the pitch to watch them train. As usual, most of the players were totally ignoring us and just going about their business, and we just sat there quietly on the sidelines. And then a whistle blew telling the players to have a wee break or something. I don't know what they were doing, but they were stopped training. And Gilles Rousset, he was in the goal closest to us, right? And he started waving and shouting over towards us. My brother and I, we looked at each other like, is he looking at us? Is he talking to us? Like me and you? Really? It's hard for me to convey the sense of excitement that brought as that happened. We didn't move for a few seconds, but then he shouted again and was like waving us onto the pitch, telling us to come towards him. So we like jumped up on our feet and ran towards Gilles Rousset. I just could not believe that was happening. I had my big water bottle with me, my big sports bottle, and we started lugging it across the pitch towards him. I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically he wanted a drink of my water, right? I gave him the bottle and he basically downed the whole lot in about 5 seconds flat. He asked us what our names were and where we lived and if we were excited for the cup final and all that kind of stuff. That was enough for us. We were made. I think at that point I was thinking to myself, this is the best day of my life. I've just met Gilles Rousset. He is a hero for us at Hearts. And from that moment onwards, Gilles Rousset wasn't only just like a hero at Hearts, he was my idol. I got that bottle of water that he drank from and I put it on a shelf in my room, and it was like the World Cup trophy for me. The next day as well, I begged my parents to take me out and get me the Hearts goalkeeper top, which remember was bright yellow and had black sleeves. And on the back, of course, I got the name of Gilles Rousset plastered across the back. Rousset, it said. From that moment, I thought I'd found my calling. I was going to be a goalkeeper. Gilles Rousset had inspired me. So I went to school, right, the next day. And let me explain things. In school, in those days in Edinburgh, we used to play football. The boys in my class, we played football every single day, twice a day. First of all, at the 15-minute break that we had in the mornings, and then at lunch break as well. Both of those breaks, we spent the entire time, every single day, rain or shine, playing football. And on that day, after getting my new goalkeeper strip with Rousset on the back, you can bet that I brought it into school, and I put it on for the first 15 minutes 15-minute break. Football wasn't only my life, it was all of our lives. In our neighbourhood, football was everything for us. And in my class, and in most classes in Edinburgh, the classes are pretty much split between those who are Hearts supporters and those who are Hibs supporters. There was a couple of people who are Rangers and Celtic fans from Glasgow, but majority of people were Hearts or Hibs. But you can be sure in a cup final between Hearts and Rangers that everybody who wasn't a Hearts fan, all the Hibs fans for example, were cheering for Rangers for that cup final. And the Hibs fans in my class who were my friends, they were mysteriously silent all the way up to that cup final. We played every single day football, but they never talked about Hearts in the cup final. I wonder why. Anyway, the game came, the cup final, and as a Hearts supporter it was abysmal. We got beat 5-1, which was quite shameful. It was a really bad beating and the game was pretty much unremarkable apart from a few main incidents, this one being the biggest one. Yep, Gilles Rousset, my hero, had let the ball go through his legs. In football, if you're a goalkeeper, letting the ball go through your legs is the biggest embarrassment, the biggest shame you can have as a professional goalkeeper, is for that to happen to you. It was a humiliation, and he got the brunt of most of the stick and the jokes. Some of it was lighthearted, some of it was pretty serious. The next day at school, the taunting was pretty merciless for everybody who was a Hearts fan. But you know what? We went on and we played football anyway. I didn't have my strip with me. I did not have my Gilles Rousset strip. I just couldn't bear it for that day. I was still in goals. I'd been in goals for the last couple of weeks because I was just like, I was the new Gilles Rousset. In more ways than one, in more ways than I could have imagined at that moment. After just a few minutes of playing, one of the cockiest people on the entire pitch, who was on the other team, ran towards me with the ball at his feet. Can you guess what happened? That's right, the ball went straight through my legs and into the goal. It was as if every single person in my school had showed up at that moment and formed a semicircle around me. I was on the floor, distraught at what had just happened, but as I got myself up on my feet and turned around to face the people looking at me, an absolute chorus burst out, everybody pointing at me. Rousset! 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 It probably wasn't as loud and as much of a chorus as I remember it, but it was pretty bad at the time. There's Rousset, Rousset. And guys, listen, it didn't stop. For weeks there on after, every time I let a goal in, it doesn't matter what the goal was, it didn't need to be through my legs. And after about a month, things came to a head. The bullying and the taunting was relentless. I had had enough. I was gonna get the next person who called me Rousset and string them up by the neck, right? I'd had it, I'd snapped. But you know what, sometimes Hearts players or Hibs players, any of the teams from Edinburgh, send a couple of players to the schools in Edinburgh to like play with them. I don't know, just a way to kind of drum up support for their teams or whatever. And it's usually the fringe players, the players that are never usually on the pitch, like the reserves and stuff. So like from now and again, some of them used to show up. Anyway, there was one day I remember clearly, we were going to have a football gym lesson. So this was like an extra part of football that we had for the day that we weren't expecting. So we all went to the gym and played for some football. And everybody nominated me as the goalkeeper, obviously. And these two Hibs players were there playing with us. And I can't remember exactly the context. We were mucking around, playing and stuff. And in those types of situations, when there's like these players with us, the Hibs players were there, everybody's trying to make a good impression. I can't even remember what the players were. They were like just fringe players. We've probably never even seen them ever again after that. I don't remember at what point, but one of the players, right, decided to take a shot at me. But like he was like much older than I was, and like a professional footballer, he gets paid to play football, and I'm just some little kid, right? Hits it hard straight at me. Can you guess what happens next? I don't know how it happened, but I fumbled it. It went through my legs and into the goal. At that moment, the entire gymnasium erupted in that chorus that I was so familiar with by that point. And the two Hibs players, who thought this was hilarious, joined in. At that moment, I burst out crying and ran out of the gymnasium. I don't even know where I ran to. I probably ran all the way home. And if I remember rightly, people called me Rousset for about a year there on after. It did not stop. It was relentless. And it was all because of this Frenchman, Gilles Rousset, had come into my life and let the ball go through his legs. And like, I just remember it for years there on after. I don't know exactly how long, it eventually faded out, but like the taunting was severe. I'd say that was probably my first major experience of bullying when I was at school. Because like, yeah, it's a bit of fun at the first, but then like it just did not let it go. Gilles Rousset for me basically became like synonymous for any time I screwed things up or did something wrong. Everybody would howl Gilles Rousset at me. Kids can be cruel. Gilles Rousset probably got it a lot worse than I did, in all the newspapers as well, in the media. But that was my story. I want to tell you stories about growing up in Scotland, and that is definitely part of it. Football was a big part of it. As a boy in Scotland, absolutely. And Gilles Rousset, he was part of my history. I don't know what he's doing now. I hope he's alive. I hope he's doing well, because he was a big part of the Hearts history and our story in the 90s. And despite those incidents, he was still an overall a great player for us, and probably will be very fondly remembered by Hearts fans of those times. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I would love to know your perspective on, like, did you have any incidents like that? What was your first major incident of bullying when you were younger? I'm ready to open up my heart and soul about all these stories of me growing up in Scotland and what it was like growing up in Scotland in those days. It was rough, it was tough, it was a lot of fun as well though. Guys, listen, thank you so much for watching this video. Please do share it with anybody you think might be interested in growing up in Scotland, football and any of that type of culture. Do not forget guys to follow me on Instagram as well. My handle is @ShaunVlog up there. But that was it guys for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next adventure, I hope you have a good night, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are in the world. Take care.